Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're heading to Rye House for a bit of winter testing in our GX carts. The point of today's test day was to test some new parts on the cart, such as my new nacelle panel for aerodynamic reasons, and a few other small things. We're also trying adding caster and playing with the setup to see if we could go any faster with them. So here we go for the first session of today, and you join me in unfamiliar territory as I head out onto a soaked Rye House circuit in Morgan's kart. Now we were doing this to test different setups on each of the carts, and this test was the standard wet setup, but with full caster and a narrower front than we normally run. So we were running a stiff torsion bar, minimum rear width, 20 psi for the tyre pressures, and then a 10mm spacer on each front hub, and full cast. So as you can see, there is absolutely no grip on the track at the moment, and that's because it's wet and we're sticking to our trusty Maxxis Sport tyres. Now, for next year, in GX UK we're going to be running on slightly different tyres, as the Access Karting Championship has made the decision to change over to Vega S1 sleds. We'd like to very quickly thank our sponsor, Rad Fire Sprinklers. None of this would happen without them, so we'd like to extend an absolutely massive thanks to them. Coming into the second hairpin, you can see me start to shake my head, and that's because Morgan has committed an unforgivable crime, binning my brand new car. Well, it's not new, but you get the idea. However, I nearly did this later in the day, and I think that may have been due to the two cracks I found in my chassis when we went to ASR to get the frame straightened ahead of the Landau test day and the Macy Cup. Here's the fastest lap from the session in Morgan's car. You can see me taking an odd line from turn 1 to stay off the rubber, and then hooking the curb through this bit to try and take as much speed as I can into the hairpin. Speaking of the hairpin, we're braking nice and late and then avoiding the apex tires. It was absolutely lethal in these wet conditions, and it would also help us to get a better exit. Into a second hairpin, we'd avoid the apex and then drive out to a dry spot on the exit of the corner as a cadet does a flyby. These cadets were absolutely rapid in the morning on their wet tyres. We come into the pylon section, not my strongest section, but we did quite well this lap, staying off of the more rubbered areas to try and get a better exit into the final corners of the track, where it's a very similar corner to pylon. It's all about getting the best exit onto the main straight, and that's a lap at Rye House. Now it's time for the second session of the day, this time on my car with the new bits installed, and we were running our normal wet setup entirely, so instead of being narrow at the front we were full width and no caster at all. Coming into the hairpin I'm a lot more comfortable and I lock up on the brakes a bit. I'm not sure if it's fast or not, I don't think it is, but I was just trying it because that's what you do on the test day, but I nearly do what Morgan did in the first session coming into the second hairpin, and I'm able to sort of save it. Another change that you may have noticed on my car is my new steering wheel, which is A, much nicer than my old one. It's also more inclined, so I'm sat less like a bus driver and more like a racing driver. We pull off away from a red flag, this time on board with Morgan. The red flag was just because of a little crash that happened in Pylon Corner with one of the cadets, and luckily everybody was okay and they were able to keep testing for the rest of the day. Now you can see that Morgan is getting absolutely gapped by me, so I'm clearly doing something right with the hairpin, and I think that my wider line pipe is to try and get a better racer, even though it's not a very long straight between the two hairpins. In the west, where we've got this little power, is quite a good line. You can see I'm also taking more off the curb coming through the Pylon Corner as the day was drying out and we were getting faster and faster every session. We're heading out for the first session after our lunch now, and as you can see the track is much drier. So much so that we've decided to go back to the standard OTK dry setup with the addition of extra caster. In my opinion, it made the car a lot more nervous when you go into the corner and it would have less mid-corner grip overall. However, I did like how it handled, so it's something that we'll be testing further at other tracks. Coming into the hairpin, you can see Morgan absolutely send it up my inside, and I'm able to get the cutback on the exit and recover him off coming into the second hairpin. However, we get a bad exit out of the second hairpin because of that, and Morgan's able to get a cutback on us, so we're going side by side into the first part of the Pylon Corner, but I'm able to keep the position for that. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, or even comment on the video if you've enjoyed it so far. So Morgan's going to start absolutely gapping us for the rest of the session, and I've got two excuses for that one. A, there's 2 cracks in my chassis, and B, he's on a 78 tooth gearing instead of a 76 tooth gearing, which would have given him a big advantage coming out of slow corners, such as the 2 hairpins, but it gave me a better top speed coming into turn 1. Now for the final session of the day that we captured on video, we're going to be doing a side-by-side comparisons of our lap, and you're going to be able to see just how close we were for the whole day. So that's it for another successful day of testing here at Rye House. So it was time to go and pack up the trailer, but not before we went into the cafe and watched a little bit of rental kart racing action.